Hyderabad, City of Pearls, amazing biryani, obviously, and a tech scene that's really booming globally.
Hmm.
But, underneath all that growth, there's something kind of worrying happening. The green spaces, they're disappearing fast.
Yeah.
Forests shrinking, trees just gone.
So let's dive right in today. What's really going on with Hyderabad's trees?
Mm,
Why are so many being cut down? And maybe most importantly for people listening, what does this mean for the future of the city?
exactly. Today, we're doing a deep dive, basically trying to dissect the data we have, figure out the forces behind these decisions, and, well, explore what realistically can be done about this deforestation issue in Hyderabad. It's escalating.
Okay, let's try and unpack the situation right now. The numbers themselves are pretty stark. Over the last 20 years, Hyderabad's apparently lost over half its green cover.
Wow.
Just think about that 50% gone. In like the time it takes someone to go through college,
Yeah.
the speed, the scale.
Yeah.
It's something we really need to pay attention to. We do. And if we look at the figures from the GHMC, the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, it gets clearer. Between 2016 and 2023, they officially logged over 15,000 trees being cut.
15,000.
Yeah. And the main reasons given? Infrastructure development. Things like the metro expansion, new roads, and the relentless real estate growth.
Right, but this is where it gets a bit, well, complicated
Yeah.
and maybe more concerning because 15,000 is a big number, sure, but there are activists, people on the ground, who think the real figure is much, much higher.
Mhm.
They point to environmental reports, actually from the Telangana government itself, that paint a more dramatic picture. These reports suggest a really shocking drop in tree cover from like 23% back in 2000 down to just 7% in 2024.
7%.
Yeah.
That's a huge drop.
It really is a precipitous fall.
It is. And this difference between the official counts and what independent assessments are saying, it raises questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's different ways of counting, different definitions of tree cover.
Yeah,
You know?
it'd be.
But honestly, whatever the exact number, the trend is clearly downwards.
Yeah,
It just highlights how urgent it is to understand what's happening.
absolutely. We actually found a quote from an activist that kind of nails the conflict here. They said, "We're not against progress, but does development have to come at the cost of our air to breathe, our natural heritage, and the future well-being of our children?"
Mm.
It really makes you think about the trade-offs, doesn't it? So, okay, with that worrying picture set, let's get into the why. Why is this happening? What are the main things driving this deforestation in Hyderabad?
Okay, so based on what we've looked at, there seem to be three main factors. First, as we touched on, that big infrastructure push.
Right.
Second, the booming real estate market. Massive pressure there. And third, it looks like there are real problems with actually enforcing the environmental laws that are supposed to protect these trees.
Okay, let's break those down. Infrastructure first. I mean, that seems kind of normal for a growing city, right? You've got the Hyderabad Metro, the big regional ring road project, new highways. The government says this stuff is vital for growth and connection.
And that's the argument, certainly. In a city expanding like Hyderabad, you do need updated infrastructure that's understandable. But environmental groups are asking, are all the alternatives really being looked at properly?
Like what?
Well, like, are underground tunnels being seriously considered for transport routes in, say, heavily wooded areas?
Hmm.
Could they reroute projects sometimes to avoid cutting down so many trees?
It points to this tension, between getting infrastructure built quickly and the long-term environmental cost.
That's a really good point, exploring those alternatives. Okay, now, the real estate boom. Hyderabad becoming this major IT hub has just set off this huge demand for places to live and work.
Huge.
Gated communities, tech parks, malls, they're popping up everywhere. It feels like any bit of open land is, well, fair game for construction. Exactly. The link between the IT boom and the real estate market is just undeniable. We saw a study from 2023. It found that over 1,200 acres of green land in and around Hyderabad were converted for real estate in just the 5 years before that.
Wow, 1,200 acres.
In 5 years. Yeah. It really shows the scale of how natural spaces are being, paved over.
That's a massive amount of green space lost. Which brings us to the third point, weak enforcement of the laws. Hyderabad has the Telangana Tree Protection Act, right? That's supposed to stop this sort of thing.
Yes, the law exists on paper. The problem seems to be actually making it work consistently, effectively. Our sources suggest illegal tree felling still happens, despite the act.
Hmm?
And activists allege there might be, well, corruption involved sometimes, or just a lack of accountability when trees are removed without permission. Plus, there are concerns that maybe permissions are given, but without doing proper impartial environmental impact studies first.
So it sounds like the rules are there, but maybe not being followed strictly enough, or loopholes are being used.
Yeah. It suggests a gap, basically, between the legal protection that's supposed to be there and what's actually happening day to day.
It sounds like a really complex mix of pressures then. You've got genuine needs for development, strong economic drivers, and then these apparent failures in making sure the environmental rules stick.
Yeah.
We also read an urban planning expert's view. They're saying, sustainable urban development isn't impossible. It can be done,
Right.
but it needs real political will, stricter policies that are actually enforced, and importantly, getting the public more involved in these decisions about their own city.
That's such a crucial point.
Yeah.
Sustainable development isn't about stopping growth. It's about doing it smarter, integrating the economy with the environment, basically ensuring the city stays healthy and livable long term. Which brings us right back to the listener, doesn't it? Why should you, listening now, be concerned about all this? What's the actual impact on your life?
Exactly. It's easy to hear numbers like 50% loss and think, oh, that's an environmental issue, kind of abstract. But the deforestation in Hyderabad, it has real, tangible effects on everyone living there.
Let's take rising temperatures. Hyderabad's average temperature is already up by 2 degrees Celsius over the last 15 years.
2 degrees. That's significant.
It is. And part of that is the urban heat island effect. All the concrete, the buildings, they trap heat way more than green spaces do. Fewer trees mean less shade, less natural cooling, which leads to hotter summers. Remember that record 46 degrees in 2023?
Yeah, hard to forget. You really feel that.
You do. And it's not just the heat. Think about air quality. The AQI in Hyderabad, it's been a growing worry. Trees are like nature's air filters, right? They soak up pollutants, give us oxygen. When we lose loads of trees, we lose that filtering capacity. And that can lead to more breathing problems, other health issues linked to bad air.
So hotter and harder to breathe. Great combo.
Not ideal, no. And then there's biodiversity loss. Hyderabad and the areas around it, they have or had a lot of different plants and animals. Deforestation just destroys their homes, basically.
Right.
Our sources specifically mentioned seeing fewer common birds, like sparrows, even peacocks disappearing in some areas. It's not just sad, losing these species. It's a sign the whole ecosystem is getting knocked off balance.
Yeah, like a warning sign when you stop seeing the sparrows.
Exactly. It's an indicator. Losing even small parts of that web can have bigger, unpredictable effects down the line.
Absolutely. It makes you realize, like one source put it powerfully, this isn't just about the trees. It's fundamentally about, our survival and whether Hyderabad can sustain itself for us in future generations.
So, okay, the situation looks pretty serious. The obvious question then is, what can we actually do? As individuals, as a community, it feels big, but there are things, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's not hopeless. Our sources suggested several concrete actions people can take to actually make a difference. A really key first step is demanding more transparency.
From the government.
Yeah, from the authorities. We need clearer information about why trees are being cut, what assessments were done.
And a practical way to do that is to push for mandatory public hearings before any big tree cutting projects get the green light.
Ah, okay. So people can actually have their say.
Exactly. Voice concerns, ask questions, make sure the environmental side is properly considered. Also, supporting local NGOs like Save Hyderabad's Trees, they do important work. They use things like the Right to Information Act, RTIs, to find out about illegal deforestation and, bring it into the open.
Okay, so transparency and supporting those groups. What else? Planting trees?
Planting helps, definitely. But our sources were clear. Planting new saplings doesn't immediately replace the benefits of a big, mature tree that's been there for decades.
Right, makes sense. Those old trees do a lot more work.
They do. So protecting the trees we already have is maybe even more crucial. Getting involved in local things like citizen-led tree walks, that can help.
How do those work?
Basically, people go out, document the trees in their neighborhood, raise awareness about how important they are. It builds a sense of local ownership, makes people care, and that can actually deter illegal cutting sometimes.
Okay, so protect first, then plant. Got it. And the last point.
The last one is using our democratic power, our vote, and our voice.
Ah, the political angle.
Yep. Elected officials need to know that environmental issues, like protecting green spaces, matter to voters.
Ah.
We need to tell them. demand green policies.
So talking to representatives, making it clear this is a priority when we vote.
Exactly. Engaging with them, showing up for discussions, even just talking to neighbors about it. All that public pressure, collectively, it adds up. Politicians do respond to that eventually.
Right, they have to.
They do.
So wrapping up this deep dive on Hyderabad's deforestation, it really feels like a wake-up call, doesn't it? We're kind of at a crossroads. The decisions made now are going to shape the city for a long, long time.
Yeah. Absolutely. It really comes down to a fundamental choice, I think. Do we just watch the city become more and more concrete? Or do we actively get involved in trying to save and even expand the green spaces that make it livable and, well, healthy?
It's a stark choice, concrete jungles or, actual ones.
Pretty much.
So maybe the final thought to leave everyone with is this. What kind of Hyderabad do you want to see in the future? One struggling with heat and pollution, or one that's vibrant, green, healthy? It's something we're thinking about long after you stop listening to us. We'd really encourage everyone to keep exploring this, support local efforts, and yeah, make your voice heard. It really matters.